Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's a sad day for me because we're going to pay taxes. Tens of thousands of dollars in taxes, and it is a bummer. But I don't want to get into that because it puts me in a foul mood. I do want to talk about what happened to Jose because this is in part of what happens when, millions of illegals run across the border. Now we're starting to see it in North Louisiana. Jose's had some trouble, and I want to get into it. I've learned a little bit more about the story, and this is truly terrifying for any grown man that's minding his own business. So he's had kids running through this particular one was about 13 years old, coming through his property, jumping the fence. He has told them to stop, and along with other things that are happening in his area, in his neighborhood. I told you before, people from Guatemala, people from Central America, all tattooed up. I don't want to make too many insinuations, but they could be gang related. I don't know. But this one particular girl came through his yard. He asked her or told her to get off, stop this, don't do this anymore. I don't want you coming cutting through my backyard. Who would want that, right? Well, she starts crying and gets the law called, and the police show up, 2 or 3 of them, and accuses him of trying to get her to come inside his house. Trying to entice her to come inside his house. And who knows what else she made up, because there's a language barrier there. Well, lucky for Jose, his wife and son were inside the house. It made absolutely no sense. Okay, no sense at all. So I'm not sure what's going on where migrants are calling the police on people like Jose. What is their plan? I don't know if she's set up to do it because of other bad actors in the neighborhood. I can only speculate. But for that to happen, when it's a 13-year-old word against a grown man's word, and maybe there was nobody home, maybe she said she touched him. He touched her or something. I just can't imagine being in that situation. But he's okay. Nothing's going to happen. It's all been resolved. But,
it's a lesson learned.
Now they have cameras. That's another thing, guys. Put some cameras up. Yep. I had somebody reach out in the comments and said, he got a word when he was sleeping that we need to start putting cameras up. You're not going crazy. So they're cheap. And they're easy. It's easy to hide. Just game cameras.
Anything.
Well, I say they're cheap. They're not that cheap. But you can get one around $80. I imagine $100.
Well, Chris and I were talking. it's your word against someone else's. I just had a conversation with somebody the other day. It was just 2 people talking, and then it came back and they said, "Oh, you said this," and I'm like, at the end of the day, it's my word against yours. That's all you've got. So unless you've got something to back it up, like a camera,
keep your word. That's a very good reason to do what you say you're going to do. Sometimes that's not very fun, but sometimes it's worth doing anyway because that's what you said, even though it's not a good time, or maybe you made the wrong decision. But just do it anyway. Salvage your word, and keep your word at all cost.
Well, anyway, let's get into some of the stuff we've been going over. And
yes, you were telling me about CBDCs.
So right now, you guys, we've been talking about the World Economic Forum is meeting right now in China, and they're rolling out the fingerprint card, which I'm still trying to research and see what they're going to say about that. But they've come out and they've stated, and you guys, we've talked about this, as Chris was saying earlier. He's like, this is old news, Stacey. I'm like, I know.
She got her panties all in a wad.
But this is actually, okay, we've talked about this. We speculate about the CBDC, but they've come out, and this is a statement, you guys, from the World Economic Forum as they're talking right now in China.
Let's try to refer to them as WEF.
WEF.
Or FEW.
Right. Well, FEW. We'll call them FEW.
Yeah.
So it says at the 14th FEW, their annual meeting, they quote that, talking about the currency, we are at the end or at the cusp of physical currency essentially disappearing, and that the CBDC is going to take a place of the physical currency. They said it can either be a better place or a much darker place. They said, quote, you could have a potentially where the CBDC is darker world where the government decides the units of the central bank money can be used to purchase some things, but not other things that they consider, quote, less desirable, like ammunition, drugs, and so on. So you guys, we've talked about this, but now they're actually stating it. They're putting it in a statement. So here we are with the CBDC again.
We've been talking about this for years, and now it's here, and you're about to see it get rolled out. It is about to, and it's going to be a global thing, you know? That's what they want.
Well, they're trying with the digital ID.
I'm hoping what they want and get is two different things. But I can't imagine how many people will jump on this like white on rice as soon as something as small as $100 stimulus, or maybe even large as a $2,000 or $5,000 stimulus. And it'll be programmed there'll be an expiration date. There'll probably be an expiration date on your pension and, you know, other, making your money time sensitive in all different ways.
Well, a lot of you guys asked me that question, you know, can things be tracked? If we go CBDC, I mean, it is definitely going to be tracked. But moving on to there
will be a CBDC.
Well, we've been saying it, but now they've just come out and said it. I mean, the physical currency, it's almost done.
I guess the true terror is GCBDC, the global central bank digital currency. That's the one world government. You know, it's all part of it.
Well, we've got all the United Nations, the few, WFF, whatever you want to call them.
That is a good. I like that. Instead of calling them the elite, which I don't want to do anymore, they're not the elite. The powers that should not be, maybe we'll just call them the few. The few people that think they deserve all of the resources.
I like that.
It's just like John Kerry. If he didn't fly his jet one trip.
No, so
yeah, tell me about that.
You guys saw that. You guys follow us on Twitter, because I post all this information on Twitter, and so sometimes we don't have the time to cover everything. But the New York Post actually came out with this, and if they did 849 years of cooking pizzas in New York, because there's a huge controversy right now about wood-burning stoves and natural gas and all that, and to do pizzas.
Well, they're trying to ban that stoves.
And so the pizza people are like, well, they're pissed off about it, basically. If you guys saw the video that I posted on Twitter where he's throwing the pizza over the fence. But it's 1 year, so 849 years of cooking pizzas equals 1 year of John Kerry's private jet that he seems to fly everywhere, which he's visited China a lot lately. So that was very interesting.
Climate Kerry. Yeah. It's a joke, guys. Well, it's a bad joke. It's the truth. Well, but it's okay for them. It's not for you.
That's a good thing. We're going to start calling them the few. The few that think they deserve everything. Talking about another few with the World Health Organization. So they have come out. We've talked about this before, and they have these two bills that they keep trying to push through. And they have two. They're currently drafted. It will hand the WHO the authority to measures including significant financial contributions by individual states. They're saying that, from what I'm reading into this is like a 3 or 4 page document, but they're saying that they can go to these different countries and they can state that they have to financially contribute so much contributions to the WHO when pandemics happen. They also say that they can do censorships of scientific debates, because when they want to debate about what's going on. They also can say lockdowns, travel restrictions, forced medical examinations, and mandatory vaccines during a public health emergency of its own declaring. And they're saying that if certain things happen, that they're allowed to declare a global pandemic. And once they declare that, every person that has signed on to these bills, all these countries, they have the rights to come in and say this stuff. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, so the few, that are in control, that want to be in control of everything, will be in control of your health. And the science, trust the science, has been nothing but garbage.
They also want a digital health certificate that you have along with your digital ID, so that they say it will make it easier for you to travel from place to place.
Guys, check out Financial Prepper Twitter, because I'm putting some stuff over there. I'm treating it like anything goes, and you're smart enough to discern truth when you see it, and you can connect that with reality, and it seems to be right. All the stuff that is rolled out about the woohoo bat flu and how it was manipulated and what it's really about, these central bank digital currencies, what's going on with the dollar. The globe is de-dollarizing at a rapid rate, and it's really starting to come to a head. It's like news flashes from the end times. It's like end time news. It's like straight from Revelation. It's really wild, this one world government thing we're entering, whether we like it or not. I did hear Andrew, good friend of mine. He's in Michigan. He was driving through Rapid Falls. He sent me a video this morning. It is so smoky. The roads are just, the skies are covered with smoke, and he's having respiratory troubles. His throat's really scratchy. Said he slept with his window down a couple of nights ago and said that was a major mistake. And if you're experiencing any of those problems, or you're in an area where there's a lot of smoke, check out the air purifier. I've heard nothing but good about it. I've got an affiliate link, and they've got one called the Smoke Eraser, and they're not very expensive. We used one for a long time, and now we've got different air purification stuff. But check it out. It's something that could really, knock anything to knock the smoke out of the inside of your house would help. On to the next article.
So talk about, there's numerous things we can talk about. Which one do you want to hit on next? The electrical grid. Right now, Puerto Rico, they're talking about that they're basically coming out and protesting because their electrical company has been in bankruptcy, once or twice. And they're coming out saying they're going to double their electrical bill, which is already double what we are in the United States. And Chris and I have been talking about this. The electrical grid is our electrical grid, I don't know what we need to do to fix it, but it is an issue. When you got in Texas saying, California, they're having rolling blackouts, and they're saying, hey, can you limit the amount of electricity that you use? Just the other day, a post office worker, it was so hot, he actually passed away while delivering the mail. So our electrical grid, to me, is at a crisis. And on top of that, you have these people pushing this electrical vehicles. They can't even charge them in Texas right now. So if you have an electric vehicle, from what I'm understanding in Texas right now, you can't even charge it. So we're at a very, I think, crossroads when it comes to our electrical grid. How to fix it, I don't know. When you're taking away all the natural gas and the coal plants, and you're trying to go this renewable energy. Well, who was it the other day? I think it was Sweden. They just scrapped it. They said, forget this renewable energy, and they're going back to natural gas and all that. They said they can't do it.
Yeah, so I used to work in East Texas at power plants, and I think both of the ones I used to work at, it was Perky and Welsh. One was in Longview, around Longview, and one was around Mount Pleasant. And I worked there a lot, and I want to say they're both shut down now. So, Texas is in a bind over power, and they're steadily shutting down power plants.
And they say it's because of subsidies. All these subsidies that have been giving for renewable has actually hurt the electric grid in Texas, like major.
Yeah, it doesn't make good sense. It really doesn't. I'm a little let down by Texas. You would think they could have done something to mitigate this migration. Something. Surely. There's something they could do. Build their own wall,
Well,
have somebody set up stationed every 100 foot, holding a seed delivery device and a radio, and pay them good. It's got to be cheaper than taking care of millions of immigrants, you know.
I think Governor Abbott tried at one point. I don't know. He actually talked about actually making a trip down there to the border and just kind of seeing what was going on.
Yeah, I thought about that. I'm thinking about making a trip and getting some footage of what's actually going on. I just know it's a dangerous place, but you know, I don't know how that video would go. Let me know if you think I should do that. If anybody might want to go with me, or put me in the right place and put me in the right, in front of the right people to talk to, you know, and try to get a grip on what's happening. Is it still happening? Are we still sending illegals all over the nation? I want to know about the 33,000 Russians that's been encountered, and what are they up to, and how do you vet them when they're here? When I see the Chinese people that washed up on the bank of Florida that got encountered, they just looked like they didn't have anything. They were in a pair of shorts, wet, nothing. But remember, all you have to have is a seed phrase in your head you can remember, and you can recover millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin or whatever other cryptocurrency, and they could literally be millionaires as soon as they hit the bank and walk on shore and find a computer.
Sure.
Or go to the local Connex that was shipped here from China.
Sure.
Or, you know,
yeah.
This goes for the Russians. I know that's how, there's a place for Bitcoin. That's how the Russians were getting out. That's how the people were getting out of Ukraine. They were putting their wealth into
we're hitting some
I-20 is so bad.
Even talk about all that. If you go to different websites now, used to it have like finance, industries. They actually have tabs now that say AI. I mean, that's just where we've started. Everything is going to be, like you said, crypto, AI, digital. That's just the world we live in.
The place for Bitcoin is to be able to transfer your wealth, and then you can put it into whatever you want to. You can exchange it for another currency. You can swap it for gold. I know Miles Franklin takes Bitcoin.
Does.
And then immediately, you know, turn it into cash or whatever they want. But, you know, that's pretty cool. It'd be hard to take millions of dollars worth of wealth in the form of precious metals across a border that you're not supposed to be crossing anyway. You know, so I'm sure that's what they're doing.
One more thing then I want to talk about real quick. So they're talking about how to look at what you're investing. And once again, this is something I put on Twitter. And before I go for Twitter, this 5 things I want to tell you real quick. You guys, on our YouTube channel, if you go to the community page, every day we try to do a poll. We're curious to know what you think about different things that are going on in the economy, going on in the world. I think today was one about the amendments. Which amendment do you think is like in jeopardy? And so you guys go check that out. Participate in that. I love reading your comments. I love seeing what you guys have to say, and it gives us feedback and ideas of maybe what else to talk about. But the 5 things they're saying right now that are going to change how we invest. Number 1, as we've talked about, is AI. 2 is the carbon transition. We've talked about that also, which, by the way, if you guys saw an article, if you follow us on Twitter, every 1 in, I think, 7 people in the UK are starving right now based on 2022 and all into 2023. They said they don't even have the funds to purchase food. This is the UK, you guys. This isn't a third world country. And I read that and I thought, okay, and now the government is telling all these different countries to kill the cows, what they can plant, don't plant certain things. Even Kerry came out and said, we have to stop planting food. But you got people starving. It makes no sense, whatever. But the carbon transition is going to be 2, they said, how that you're going to invest. A geopolitical fragmenting, and then aging population. That's another thing, you guys. I was reading an article the other day about how many people over a certain age have come out of retirement and they're actually working again because they cannot meet the bills. They cannot pay even if their house is paid off, they said they just can't even pay the utilities. And then a reshaped banking sector, they said, is going to be another way to invest. So they said our whole entire strategy of how we invest is going to change based on what's happening. And those were the 5 top things.
There's a lot of people. I know several people that were getting into retirement, and now they're finding out that their retirement is not enough to live on. So they're having to either come out or subsidize their retirement in a different way. And this is what you would call austerity. We're starting to get into austerity that the Americans have never experienced. As we lose the reserve currency, this is going to get worse. All of our goods and services come from Asia. Not all of them, but
well, look
most.
at the deal we just made with India. I mean, we just made a huge deal with India. All of those technology people that were at the White House. I mean, heck, they had Tim Cook with Apple sitting right next to him. The president made a huge deal with them.
So, as our dollar doesn't go as far, you know, it just makes sense that goods are going to be more expensive. You know, this is going to complicate everything, especially with inflation on goods and services, local goods and services, going up and up. The crops are really, the crop failures that we've experienced last year are really going to start to show their head this year. I know M&J is starting to buy bulk feed. If you're thinking about buying bulk feed for your animals, you're going to have to find a place to put it, like in a Mylar bag, and seal it shut, if possible.
It will ruin.
Or put it in a climate-controlled area, because I let probably 15 bags of chicken feed go bad, and before I noticed how bad it was, the chickens they stopped laying. They started to protest. So, and it took a while to get them out of that. So I ended up dumping, several $100s worth of feed, and it's just, there's no really good way to keep it unless you go to a lot of trouble with Mylar bags and you put them in barrels. That's another way, but you still got to put it in something. Yep. Unless you have a barrel that'll actually seal tight enough. And they got barrels with rubber gaskets on them and gaskets that will do good, but you're going to have to do something like that to keep it.
On another topic real quick, we'd actually talked about it in a previous video about these mosquitoes that are being genetically modified and then being released into the United States. 2021, there was like almost 200,000, I think, and the EPA approved like 2.4 billion, I think, in 2022. I'd have to go back and look at the stats. But all of a sudden, interestingly now, we have cases of malaria in the United States that we have not had before in years, in 20-something years, I think. And they're in Florida, Texas. I didn't know if it was in California or not, but I know where the mosquitoes were released. It was Florida and California. So, I don't know. I find that very interesting. We'll see how that plays out, but...
Yeah, I don't trust Billy G.
Nope. He was the one that was engineering that.
He's engineering mosquitoes.
Yes. And he came out and he quoted, but I have the vaccine, so don't worry.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah.
All right, guys. We are almost to our tax people, and maybe I'll make a video about that one day, because I have still yet to find a reliable person to do our taxes. We do most of it already, but for some reason, they're always forgetting something, filing something wrong, and it's costing me money. It's actually costing us $1,000 a month to put it off and try to figure it out. So now, it's just cheaper to pay the piper. Just pay up, sucker. That's what it feels like.
Well,
anyway.
We will probably not be making a video after this meeting because he's going to be upset. We're going to go get him some food.
Yeah, we're going to.
His panties will be in a wad.
Yeah, that's right. All right, guys. Have an awesome day. We'll see you in the next one. Later.